Grant's phone was sitting on the desk in front of him. He had been staring at it for the past 15 minutes. He was waiting for some word from Martin's team. The stress was getting to him. He was too old for this crap, and he knew it. He had to believe that Martin would be successful. Everything depended upon it. The phone finally rang, but the name that came up on the screen wasn't Martin's or any member of his team. It was Sylvia. Grant's heart sank. He reached for the phone and hesitated. She might have been calling for any number of normal business reasons, but he knew he was fooling himself, and he hated fools. He picked up the phone and answered. "Sylvia, have you heard from Martin's team?" There was a long pause, and he was just about to speak again when he heard Sylvia's voice come over the line. "Martin's dead. Grant, they killed him." Grant let out a long breath. His friend was dead. He could hardly believe it. He forced himself to remain calm and spoke again into the phone. "What happened?" "They shot him, Grant. He's dead." Sylvia's voice cracked on her last word, and Grant could tell she was crying. He gave her a moment. They all liked Martin. He was one of the good ones, but this was too important, and he knew it. So after a moment, he spoke again, gently prodding her to continue. "Sylvia, tell me what happened. Are you with me?" When she spoke again, her voice was steady. "It all went sideways. Hansen must have known about Martin, knows about us." Grant hadn't realized he had gotten to his feet, and now he collapsed back into his chair. This was bad. If Hansen knew about Martin, then he knew about Grant as well, and if Hansen had gotten the key, he was as good as dead. "Sylvia, what about the rest of the team? Do they have the key?" Sylvia described what went down at the warehouse, how Hansen had anticipated their move, how he had even gone so far as to remove every lock from every door, and in some cases the doors themselves. Hansen's men had been ready for them. They had killed everyone on Martin's team, but Martin himself had gotten away with the key. He had made a desperate break for the woods, but they had caught up with him. He was almost as old as Grant, after all. "So, Hansen has the key, then?" he asked, almost in a whisper. All his strength seemed to have left him. "No," Sylvia's voice came back over the line. "Martin managed to hand it off." Grant was on his feet again, his mind racing, trying to understand how that was possible. There was no one else in the field close enough to the situation other than Martin's team, and they were all dead. He didn't think the team he sent to rendezvous with Martin's would have been close enough yet. That was Brian's team, and he had delayed in sending them for fear that it would tip off Hansen that something was wrong. So Brian's team had been trying to make up the time and had gotten pulled over for speeding, of all things. "Sylvia," he said urgently, "who did he hand it off to?" There was a pause, and then Sylvia spoke again. "A landscaper named Murphy, David Murphy." Grant tried to calm himself, but this new information changed things. If the key was in the hands of a non-scent, it would be impossible to track, and their advantage would be nullified. Sylvia spoke again. "We are tracking him now. Brian's team is en route." Grant lowered himself into his chair. Perhaps the situation could still be salvaged. "Are you saying this landscaper is a 5%er, Sylvia?" "Yes, well, he must be. The key is active and we are tracking it now. We have this landscaper's info. He works out of his property in some backwoods town in Maine. He seems to be headed there now. He's almost there, in fact, and Brian's team is close behind him." Grant thought for a moment before he responded. He knew Brian was good, but he was young, and he could be impulsive, even somewhat reckless at times. He wished he had sent someone else to rendezvous with Martin, but they had been stretched fairly thin, and there weren't many other options. "Sylvia, make sure Brian doesn't jump the gun. We can't afford to spook this guy. You know what can happen." Sylvia didn't respond for a moment and then said, "Actually, we are out of contact with Brian at the moment. The cell service in that area of Maine is spotty at best." Grant could almost feel his blood pressure rising. Okay, update me as soon as you hear from Brian." Grant ended the call and opened his desk drawer, taking out the gun and the concealed carry holster. He knew he was at significant risk now. Hansen knew about the plan, knew he had betrayed him. Hansen would be coming for him. Parker Hansen sat in the back seat of one of the white SUVs with two of his automatons seated in the front. He dared not trust anyone else now. After he had been betrayed by his partner of 22 years, no one else in the organization could be trusted. They were just pulling away from the debacle at the warehouse. He had anticipated Grant's trap and turned it around on him. He wished it had been Grant himself at the warehouse, but the look on that little weasel Martin's face when he realized there wasn't a door in the entire building that would accept a key was almost worth the price of admission all on its own. Still, he was furious. That little prick had managed to get away with the key and denied him his prize. Even so, if it hadn't been for the untimely arrival of some guy in a dump truck that just happened to be driving down that old road behind the warehouse, he would have the key now. What was worse, while they were cleaning up the mess at the warehouse, he was informed by one of the automatons that Grant's people had gotten to the guy first, which meant Grant had the key. He knew Grant wouldn't use the key the way he had done. In the short time he had access to the key, he had taken full advantage. Despite that conniving sandbox AI, who Parker knew had its own agenda, he had successfully used the sandbox to make himself almost invulnerable. But there was still one thing that was a significant danger to him, and he had to reacquire it. There would be some time for him to think on the way back to his new base of operations. He thought about how they had almost succeeded in killing him. If Sylvia wasn't such a bad liar, he may never have even been suspicious. If their plan had been successful, he would have simply ceased to exist. He shuddered at the thought.